It's a great honor to have you all here, colleagues and friends in Sweden and the beautiful city of Malmö. This is also the city of Zlatan. And you have all, even if you not are hugely interested in football, just a little, I think you have heard of the best player in Sweden ever. He was born here, he grew up here, he started play football here. And we gave you a book written in English about Zlatan. And you can read that book as a picture of modern football. But you can also read that book how a young boy living in a suburb, how distant sometimes that life can be to many other people in the society. If I remember it right, Zlatan saw his first Swedish movie when he was a little bit over 20, because then he had get a Swedish girlfriend. So you have a book about Zlatan, who is a fantastic book about football, but also interesting book about the life in some of our suburbs. So of course it's a great honor to have you here, and especially in Malmö, and to be able to discuss this very important topic that we're gonna focus on these 2 days. And this topic has a crucial impact for the future of our societies. So I'm very happy that the Swedish Arbetsförmedlingen, the Swedish PES, together with the Public Employment Service in Austria and the Bundesagentur für Arbeit in Germany can arrange this workshop. And I think this workshop is a good example showing the usefulness of and importance of WAPES. WAPES creates a suitable arena for sharing our experience, learning from each other, but also from mistakes and failures that we sometimes do in our activity when we working in our authorities. Sweden is in one way a big country if you look into the area, but we're not so big if you look into the amount of citizens. We are a little bit more than 9 million. Last year we received 163,000 migrants. This is the highest number of migrants to Sweden in modern time, maybe ever. This figure corresponds to a number of citizens in a medium-sized city in Sweden. The migrant flows were an immense challenge for our country in terms of arranging accommodation and meeting their elementary needs. Many of these asylum seekers will be granted permit to stay and work in Sweden. And here I just shortly would like to mention that the Swedish government has recently made some changes in the regulation for asylum applications. The purpose is to take better control over the recent migrant flows to Sweden. And these changes includes also temporary residence permit for those applicants who are not considered as refugees according to the Geneva Convention. And these changes will slightly affect our work. But the system that I'm going to talk will continue as we are used to. But it is a new situation for Sweden or for the Swedish PES to deal with much more people who have a permanent permission, a temporary permission to stay, compared to when nearly everyone get the permanent permission. When a person is granted asylum, it is the task of Arbetsförmedlingen to support them in a 2-year-long program so that the person can get a job or begin to study. The program includes courses for Swedish language, knowledge about the Swedish society and the Swedish labor market, job training and other useful courses or program. Arbetsförmedlingen has the official mission to support the integration of newcomers in the labor market since 2010. So my conclusion in this short introduction and the question that I want to raise in the discussion a little bit later will therefore be based upon this almost 6-year-long experience. The good thing with this mission is that we meet the newcomers in a very early stage of their life in Sweden. This gives us the opportunity of providing the right support and complementary education to make them ready and compatible in the labor market, or taking steps closer to the labor market. If I also may say something about the problems or the demands we have in the mission, it will be one, the sharp change that the number of refugees often shows from year to year in many countries. That situation creates some severe difficulties in planning the mission. When the number of refugees increase, you have to employ and educate quite many new staff members. And that can be rather tough, of course. On the other hand, when the number of refugees decline, you have the opposite problem, to reduce the staff, which isn't either an easy task. Another challenge is that we already have very complex authority. PES all around the world is quite often huge authorities, complex mission. And a high number of refugees means that we increase even more, both in numbers and in complexity. And the mission itself is, of course, also very complex. So, and on top of that, especially in Sweden, the municipality is highly involved in the reception of the migrants, offering them housing and other services. And there can be some problems concerning the boundaries of our and the municipality's responsibilities, especially, of course, when the number of refugees increase, as the case is now. In total, this makes the job to lead the agency much more complex and tough many times. But I will still say that despite the difficulties, it's much better both for the migrants and for the country that the Arbetsförmedlingen or the PES is responsible for this mission, and that we can come in an early stage and work with the integration of the migrants in the labor market. According to our forecasts, Arbetsförmedlingen will receive 90,000 newcomers who are granted asylum in our integration program next year, and 93,000 the year after. This will be one of the major challenges that Arbetsförmedlingen and our country has faced during the last decade. But I would also like to emphasize that this situation can be a great asset for Swedish society if we can handle the challenges cleverly. For the moment, Swedish economy is very strong, and we have a strong labor market. There is a shortage of employees in several branches, so the newcomers in that sense are needed in the labor market. It's easier to get a job today with a strong labor market for majority of the job seeker. The second aspect is the development of our demography that shows great similarities with other European countries. Our population is growing older. At the same time, number of people in the workforce is diminishing, This imbalance is, of course, a great challenge, not only for Sweden, but also for the rest of Europe. To be frank, we need migration to fill the growing shortage of people in our workforce. But one thing is clear. If Arbetsförmedlingen is going to be successful in integrating the huge number of newcomers to our society, and especially the labor market, the effort of Arbetsförmedlingen only will not be enough. We can't do this just by ourselves. We need support from different areas of our society. I will name a few of them. Housing. As in many other countries, there is a dramatic shortage of houses in Sweden, especially in the metropolitan areas like Stockholm, Gothenburg, and Malmö. And unfortunately, it's in these urban areas that the labor market is as strongest and the possibility to find a job is at its best. But the shortage of housing, not just in these big cities, but it's also all around in Sweden. And that is a serious obstacle for a successful integration. And we have, as authority, of course, appraised this problem very thoroughly in different areas. Education is another area. Unemployed people with a high school degree have good possibilities of finding a job today. But those without a high school degree have severe difficulties. Many people among the newcomers have a suitable education, but many others don't. Some don't even have a primary school degree. And there isn't much we can do with Arbetsförmedlingens tools or programs to support those in lack of high school education. In the Swedish labor market, a high school education degree is necessary to get a sustainable job. So the regular institutions for education in the society must react here to maintain both primary school and high school education for those in lack of that kind of education. So both housing and educational supports, as I see it, are crucial for successful integration and establishment on the labor market of the newcomers. And apart from that, there is also need of sufficient health care and social support. We believe also that there is a need for reforms in the labor market for a successful integration of newcomers. And to be able to absorb so many newcomers in a rather short period, we need some easy access. We need some easy access to the labor market. And that should be the objective of that kind of reforms in the labor market. I don't believe that this can be achieved by one single universal reform. I think we in Sweden need to work with many, maybe smaller reforms under the coming years. Two other major obstacles for a successful integration are the language skills of the newcomers and discrimination. When I talk to companies that have been successful in employing newcomers, I can notice a very clear pattern concerning their attitudes toward the skills of the newcomers in the Swedish language. These companies don't demand that the newcomers speak good Swedish from day one. They consider that the Swedish will develop at the workplace during the time they're working there. But we can see that, and that's very clear, that a lot of companies demand a very good Swedish before they employ a foreigner person. I believe that the employer need to lower the expectations concerning the language skills. Of course, we have some different kinds of job where you absolutely need to be in a perfect Swedish skills. But we also have a lot of duties that you not need the Swedish to be very good from day one. The other severe obstacle is discrimination. Many times, it's not necessarily racial discrimination. It can be all from lack of experience working with a foreigner person to xenophobia. But nevertheless, the effect is devastating, both for the individual and for our society. As I see it, we have no other option than combating discrimination. The question is this primarily a mission for PES? If so, do we have the necessary resources and knowledge and competence to work in this field and combat discrimination? And then finally, what's the role more concrete for PES? What must we do for successful integration of the migrants in the labor market? Yeah, I should say early action is a key issue throughout the whole process, from decision making from the migration board to when we receive migrants in our system. And that's also about identifying early skills and competencies. And further on, education, training and motivation, work support, the newcomers for a job or for studies. So early action is one of the most important things that we can focus on. Another crucial issue is our contacts with employers. The contact need to be broad throughout the country, and they have to be profound. We need to understand the demands of the employers clearly for an accurate matching. And we need also to be used to be in contact with them so we can talk about different ways to recruit and maybe also talk about finding competence in other groups than they normally recruit from. The third issue is our ability to cooperate. We have to sharpen our ability to cooperate with other major actors of the labor market. It could be municipalities, labor union, nationwide companies, the employer association, and so on. I would like to emphasize that cooperation agreement on the national level is not enough. This agreement that often express very good intentions need to be followed up by more concrete and accurate agreements on the local level where the job is to be done. The migrant situation has created a very demanding challenge for several countries in Europe. At the same time, this situation can be a good opportunity to solve the demographic problems that we face in almost all European countries. But the most important thing, according to me, is that the country needs new influences, different experiences, and new horizons to be able to develop and become a richer country. And this is also the key to be a competitive country. The choice we make as PES and as a society as a whole on the path of integration the migrants in the labor market will, according to my opinion, make the difference between the success and failure. I don't say that this mission is easy. Of course it's important. So we have big challenges, but also very important issues in front of us. And when I was traveling down to Malmö yesterday, I was thinking of something in the past. I think you all have heard of this, and it's a little bit unlikely quote to use in this situation. But I was thinking yesterday of John F. Kennedy. And when he said this, I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and return him safely to the earth. A man was at the moon, and he returned safely back home before the end of the 60s. How a society develops and what's happening in the future is quite often something that we together have responsibilities for. If you want to land a man on the moon, it's possible. Even if a lot of people didn't think so. If you want to have a successful development for Europe and for our different countries, it's about people like us, politicians, but also citizens. So even if the demands are huge, we have the possibility to really do something good with this situation. So with this word, I should again say thank you very much, and I wish you once more a very warm welcome to this conference and to Sweden. Thank you.